Collections are an important feature in Katana, and let's take a look at why we need them. I'll right-click on the node at the end and choose Preview Render. And you might be able to tell that we are no longer using the gray shader that we assigned before. If we set the edit flag on the material assign node and expand the cell widget, you can see that this is now assigned to an invalid location since we renamed our hierarchy. This is a relatively simple scene, and in this case, we assigned the gray shader globally across all our assets, so it wouldn't be too hard to change this path manually. Now let's look at the prune node. Even though we are using custom cell statements here, imagine if you had to update these statements across several different nodes. Prune and material assigns are just two examples of a very large variety of nodes you can have in a production scene. But without an effective way to manage this, we could end up spending a lot of time maintaining our Katana script if the hierarchy changes for any reason. And unfortunately, it isn't that uncommon to have changes in the hierarchy in a production scene. This is where collections come in. If you click on the Add Statements menu on the prune node, you can see that there is a collections option. But this option is only for choosing a collection that already exists. Collections are predefined and it needs to be specifically created before it can be used. To create a collection, press Tab and type CC. Choose Collection Create. Connect this node into the network and set the edit flag on it. The Collection Create node has three main parameters: location, name, and the cell statement widget. The location specifies where the collections will be created. We will look at this in more detail in a later lesson, but for now, I'm going to middle click and drag the geolocation into this. The name parameter defines the name of the collection itself. This can be anything, but it is important to name them so that you and others can identify what the collection is for without looking at the collection create node. I'll call this collection cc_assets. If you set the view flag on the collection create and look at the scene graph, you can see that a collections group has been added under the location we've specified. Click on the small gray arrow to expand this, and we can see that a cc_assets collection has been created. But this collection is currently empty as we have not specified any locations in the cell widget. If you click on the Add Statements menu, you can see that collections are made of paths, custom cell statements, and other collections as well. But there is an important difference that you need to always remember when using collections. The paths that you specify here must be relative to the location that the collection is living in. Let's select the assets location in the scene graph and click on Add Statements and choose Adopt Scene Graph Selection. And as you can see, the path that was added is called /assets and not root world geo assets. But if you look at the location parameter, you can see that this is a relative path. If you add these two paths together, then you get the full location that the collection will refer to. So keep this in mind, especially when creating custom cell statements inside your collections. We will go through this in an upcoming lesson. Now that we have a simple collection, let's go back to the gray shader material assign node by setting the edit flag on it. I'll click on the X button to remove the existing path. Next, click on Add Statements and choose Collections. Middle click and drag the cc_assets collection from the scene graph into this new collection statement. And that's it. Let's do another preview render. And as you can see, we have our gray shader back. Although this was a very simple example, you can see why collections can be useful. Reusing collection in multiple nodes saves you the trouble of having to search for and edit multiple nodes by giving you a single node to make these changes from.